من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. Amma ba'd, my dear respected brothers, elders, youngsters, sisters, and all listeners, we know that one of the most momentous occasions in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, one of those incidents that the Sahaba really had it engraved in their memories, one of the final memories that majority of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum had of the Prophet ﷺ throughout his entire seerah, is the khutbah that the Prophet ﷺ gave in his Hajjatul Wida. The reason why this is so momentous is because, as a matter of fact, many people who became Sahaba, they became Sahaba on that day. As we know that Islam had spread quite far, and not everybody came to visit the Prophet ﷺ. Many tribes, they would often send delegations, or they would send a representative that would go to Madinatul Munawwara, and they would learn from the Prophet ﷺ, and they would come and teach their tribes. So many of them, they did not really get to meet the Prophet ﷺ. The definition of a Sahabi, according to the Muhaddithun, there's a very technical definition. It's a person that has to, number one, see the Prophet ﷺ. Number two, they have to be in the state of Islam. Therefore, if, for example, a person is in the state of Islam, but they do not see the Prophet ﷺ in his lifetime, this person is not considered a Sahabi. This person is considered, there's a term that the Muhaddithun coined for that, a mukhadram. The term is mukhadram. Similarly, if somebody saw the Prophet ﷺ, but in his lifetime did not accept Islam, and then after the Prophet ﷺ passes away, he accepts Islam. And there were a few instances of people like that. They were also considered mukhadram, because although they had seen the Prophet ﷺ, it was not in the state of Islam. So many of the Sahaba, they became Sahaba on that day. And when people had heard that the Prophet ﷺ is going for Hajj, and this is the first time that only Muslims are going to be performing the Hajj. We know that, of course, in pre-prophetic era, in the time of the Jahiliyyah, in the era of ignorance, people used to perform Hajj, right? But it was not the way that the Prophet ﷺ had taught. As a matter of fact, they had many ignorant beliefs that they used to practice upon. Nonetheless, when people heard this, they got extremely excited. And therefore, even before the days of Hajj started, many tribes, many people, they started to raise tents in the haram and outside of the haram, just out of excitement that these days are coming, the Prophet ﷺ will come, we'll finally get to see him, and we'll perform Hajj with him. Imagine if it was me and you, and we heard that Nabi ﷺ is going to lead this Hajj, and we'll get the opportunity to see him. So like that, tens of thousands of people in droves came together. And many people, they say this number, 124,000 Sahaba gathered on that day. There's no proof, there's no evidence directly from hadith that states any particular number, but we know that there was a large number. Nonetheless, once the Prophet ﷺ got to meet many of these new faces, there were multiple khutab that he gave. It was not just one khutbah. There were multiple different, sermons that he gave to people. And this is why you see, when it talks about the khutbah of Hajjatul Wida', there are many narrations. There are some narrations that say that the Prophet ﷺ gave the khutbah in Mina on Yawm al-Nahr, on the day of Eid al-Adha. Some narrations will say on the day of Arafah, the day before Eid al-Adha, on the plain of Arafat. So you have many different narrations, and this is because the Prophet ﷺ gave this khutbah multiple times. As we know, one of the beautiful pedagogical strategies of the Prophet ﷺ that many researchers are actually benefiting from nowadays is repetition. كان إذا تكلم ثلاثا. This is mentioned about the Prophet ﷺ in Ash-Shama'il al-Muhammadiyya. Imam al-Tirmidhi says, whenever the Prophet ﷺ used to speak, many times he would repeat it thrice. Why? Because this is better for retention. Psychologists today, they are finding about these new pedagogical and educational strategies. So the Prophet ﷺ, he would repeat his message a few times throughout his Hajj. So we take the hadith that is mentioned in the Sahihain, in Bukhari and Muslim. Also like this hadith is also narrated by Imam al-Nasa'i in his Sunan, and also Abu Dawud and Tirmidhi in their Sunan as well. There are multiple different narrations. Why is it important to gather these narrations? Because some narrations have more wording than other narrations. Imam Bukhari's teacher, one of his most brilliant teachers, as a matter of fact, Imam Bukhari says that I was never fazed, I was never amazed by anybody. I never felt awe for any person that I encountered from my teachers except Ali ibn al-Madini. I've never seen anyone like him. This is the relationship that he had with Ali ibn al-Madini. When Ali ibn al-Madini heard this, he said, as a matter of fact, Bukhari has never even seen anyone like himself. This is the kind of mutual love and respect that the teacher and the student had for each other. So Ali ibn al-Madini, he says that you cannot truly understand a hadith until you gather all of the ahadith of that abwab, those chapters. That's the only time that you will get a full encompassing picture of a particular narration. So the Prophet ﷺ, he has multiple khutab like this. And there are a few key themes that he repeats. And today we'll focus on the one particular message that he conveyed to us that is so important, especially today, for us to focus on. And that is the message of unity. Wallahi, when we think about it, it brings tears to our eyes. The Prophet ﷺ, he asked people that what is the day today? Which place are we in today? And it's the most sacred day. If it's the day of Arafah, then we know that in a different hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, أَعْظَمُ أَيَّامِ الدُّنْيَا, the best of all days throughout the universe, throughout the year, the best of all days. And he is in the best of all places, in the haram. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says that your sacredness, the sacredness of every single Muslim, is just like the sacredness of this day, which is a sacred day, and this place, which is a sacred place, and this occasion, which is a sacred occasion. He says all of your sacredness is like that. Imagine this. Imagine, the value of a believer in the eyes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what value do we give? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, throughout the Sharia, if you look at fiqh, nowadays, unfortunately, and many scholars will also do this, we only look at the bones and the skin of fiqh. We don't philosophize and look deeply at what does this fiqh, what does the Sharia try to achieve. And I'm not blaming or criticizing anybody, but we need to dedicate time for this, right? And we'll see that many of the laws in the Sharia tries to achieve unity amongst people. This is one of the driving factors behind the Sharia, behind the spirit of the Sharia. I'll just give you one small example. There are plenty of examples like this, but I'll just give you one example. We had a session on inheritance. If a person wanted to take all of their inheritance and give it away to a charitable cause, right? They want to give it to a masjid or a hospital. This, we would say, is a noble endeavor. This is something that is praiseworthy. But the Prophet ﷺ said no. He advised against that. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anh, and this hadith is narrated by Imam al-Bukhari in his book Al-Adab al-Mufrad. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, he got sick. He said, Ya Rasulullah, can I give half of my wealth in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The Prophet ﷺ said no. He said, can I give 1/3? He said, sure, you can give 1/3. And he says, وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. He says, even that is a lot. Why? Because Sharia has determined certain portions that a person must give to their kids. Why? So that there's no ill feelings left. There are no ill feelings that, oh, my parents never, left anything behind for me. Similarly, if a person has a property, this is mentioned also in the books of Buyu'a. If a person has a property and they want to build on their own property, but they build in such a way that this will take away from the shade of his neighbor, the qadi will reject this construction, and he will order him to remove that extension. Why? Because you are harming your neighbor by doing this, even though it's on your own property. But you're harming your neighbor. So we see many, many, many laws like this that aim to, bring people together. As a matter of fact, in the khutbah of Hajjatul Wida', the Prophet ﷺ, one of the injunctions that he gave is against riba. And same thing. Why is riba prohibited? A lot of times we just talk about the fiqh of it, just the skeleton. But look at the wisdom behind it. And any economist today will understand this very, very well. That there's a form of neo-colonialism that occurred in the world just through loans. This is a phenomenon that I encourage everybody to study. But there are many, many courses. If you go to any Ivy League school, they have many courses just on this. That we thought that colonialism is over, but there's a new system. There's a neo-colonialism that exists just through loans, right? And the interest that accrues. And many, many African countries and many other third world countries that are stuck in debt, and they have to comply with certain, other nations or certain corporations just because of their debt. So nonetheless, the Prophet ﷺ, he wanted to avoid this kind of relationship of unjust power between people through interest. So like this, we find many aspects of the Sharia that focuses on this. The Prophet ﷺ in the hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, he says, "Al-mu'minu lil-mu'mini kal-bunyan." He says, a believer is for another believer like a building. يَشُدُّ بَعْضُهُ بَعْضًا. One part of the building strengthens another part of the building. This is how believers are supposed to be. Supposed to be together in their hearts, in their minds, in their bodies. They're supposed to always feel for each other. They're supposed to have compassion for each other. After the Prophet ﷺ passed away, look at the kind of ideology that he left behind. Subhanallah, what a man, what a perfect man that left such a perfect civilization. And I think this is one of the biggest miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, the civilizational change that he caused in such a short period of time. We see that before the Prophet ﷺ came, tribes are warring. Tribes are, vying with each other. They're killing one another. And the Prophet ﷺ brings them together so well that after he passes away, there's one Sahabi, Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali. If you read in Sahih al-Bukhari, in the Arabic editions, in the footnotes, it'll say, Yusufu hadhihi al-ummah. The Prophet ﷺ gave him that nickname. Jarir ibn Abdullah, he used to call him Yusuf, the Yusuf of this ummah. He was so handsome. And he came for a couple of months. He wasn't actually from Madinatul Munawwara. He lived in the outskirts of Madinatul Munawwara. He came for a couple of months in the last few months of the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ to study with him. After the Prophet ﷺ passes away, Jarir ibn Abdullah is having a trade. He's buying and selling. What does he want to buy? He wants to buy an animal to ride. So he asks the person, what is the price for this? The person tells him, this is 300 dirham. He says, no, you're charging me too less. Charge me more. Imagine this. We also negotiate, me and you, we also negotiate, right? If you go on Marketplace, you go on Craigslist, somebody's selling a car or a phone. If they say 400, we say, no, 300. They'll say, no, 375. We'll say, okay, let's meet in the middle, 350, right? We negotiate for a lesser price. Jarir ibn Abdullah is saying, no, you're charging me too less, let me give you more. So the person says, okay, no problem, 400 dirham. He said, still too less. Let me give you more. He says 500, 600, 700, 800. He bought the animal for 800 dirhams. Somebody asked him, why did you do this? He says, Bayana ala Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I pledged to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ala nush li kulli Muslim, that I will have always well-wishing for each one of my Muslim brothers. Imagine this. This is the civilization that the Prophet ﷺ left. May Allah grant us the tawfiq to, understand the true spirit of Islam, to understand, the spirit of fiqh, and to understand the spirit of the seerah, and the kind of mentality and ideology that Rasulullah ﷺ wanted to leave behind. Today we take petty issues, small issues, and we start to fight over those. May Allah grant us the tawfiq to rectify ourselves. Wa akhir da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وأزواجه وذريته والناس أجمعين. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: خير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا وتراصوا سووا صفوفكم فإن تسوية الصفوف من إقامة الصلاة. Please make sure that you're standing shoulder to shoulder. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تختلفوا فتختلف قلوبكم. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون. نزلا من غفور رحيم. ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. ولا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. وما يلقاها إلا الذين صبروا وما يلقاها إلا ذو حظ عظيم. وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه هو السميع العليم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Again, our youth group are outside with the bake sale. Please buy anything from them. It's all the proceeds going to go to the brothers and sisters in Gaza, inshallah. Also, our registration for our academic programs are going on, especially the summer program. Those who want to register the children for the summer camp. This 25th, June 25th is the last day. Our Hifz program, Sunday school and Quran Academy, everything